Greetings everyone, Anthony here and welcome back to bannersonthewall.wordpress.com for this. Well, it's a bit of an omnibus edition of Goodnight and Good Luck. That's our series here on Banners on the Wall, where we run down the departures from the players that have left the Basingstoke Bison. Now, as you can appreciate, with this being this summer and the Bison not playing in 23-24, that's been the entire roster. We're going to do 4 players in one go, and this is a bit of an experimental thing. As you can see, we've got some of the graphics on the screen from the What's Current stream that goes Wednesday nights 8 PM on YouTube during the season. But the honest answer is I've just got a bit behind and I need to catch up, and this is the way I've chosen to do it, by experimenting a little bit. So like I said, there's going to be 4 players in this one. Neil Liddiard, Travis Penny, Josh Kelly and Ollie Hemmings-Maher. Now, 2 of those, some of you will say technically don't count, but they all played their part this year, and I felt all of them were worthy of talking about in this thing. After this point, any other departures, because there's still a couple of guys left to be unannounced, fully intend to write. Why am I doing this? Well, a family wedding gave way to being very, very tired, which gave way to then a family funeral a few days later, which then gave to being much more tired, and here we are. Twitter imploded in that time and has seemingly now come back. England have lost yet another go in the cricket. We still don't know whether Vladimir Putin is really in charge of Russia or there's another coup about to come, and the lights keep ever so slowly turning off in Basingstoke as players leave ahead of the new season. It's crazy to think that we're nearly at the end of that journey. Either way, there's a couple of guys that we very much need to talk about. Neil Liddiard joining the Bristol Pitbulls is an interesting one. It's more of a journey for Liddiard, and when you consider how many of the Bison have gone and joined the Bees in Slough for the next season, you did wonder whether Liddiard would go there as well. Experience, presence, defensive stability, and maybe something, a little bit of that extra grizzle, grit and shot-blocking prowess that the Bees lacked last year. Instead, he travels even further down the M4 and finds his way to Bristol, who need shot-blocking and veteran presence. Right, this makes much more sense almost immediately as to why he's done this and why Jamie Elsom has reached out to Lids for this one. Bristol were an odd team last year. The injury towards the end of the season to Owen Sobchuk completely and utterly tanked their chances of making the playoffs because they just didn't have it amongst them. Rhys Kelly, who has now departed up the road for Swindon, was trying to do too much, all by himself. They lacked scoring, he tried to score. They lacked defence, he tried to defend. And ultimately, he became too much. It was too much for one man to do. The net-minding situation was odd. Will Curlin would have moments of greatness and then moments of looking a little bit shaky. He is now gone. And this Bristol Pitbulls defence looks different, very different. And ultimately, it's kind of hard to know who was going to do some of the actual leadership in that bit. Matt Smittle in goal will raise questions, but one of the things that will definitely help with having Neil Liddiard on board is that is an immediate level head. The one thing we saw in Basingstoke last year, the one really big thing that they struggled with all year was team defence. And they struggled with it the year before, and they struggled with it this year as well, especially this season for the Herd, with no Adam Jones leading the line. Guys having to play extra minutes, playing roles that they weren't used to. It just didn't work at times. Guys frequently getting caught out of position. Liddiard came in, and while the Bison didn't win that many more games, they were 6-14 down the stretch from the beginning of February onwards, they were better defensively doing it. Liddiard and Tom Banner, now departed for Oxford, and we'll get onto the City Stars in a bit, immediately became a partnership that was worth watching. Liddiard didn't have to do all the work by himself because Banner was more mobile and was more able to go forward and was more able to be the legs where he couldn't anymore. Liddiard was able to do his favourite thing in the world, which is block shots. Neil, to my face at the Bison end of season party, told me, I just get in the way. I don't know how I do it. I don't believe you for a second there, Lids. You enjoy it far too much. But Banner learned, and boy, did some of these young D-men just need somebody to kind of be there with them and show them the way. And Neil Liddiard is going to show some of these young lads in Bristol the way. And that is not going to be a signing that is going to utterly change Bristol's season, but it's going to be one that could potentially be very, very important in the background. Bristol's defence looks questionable. It looks less questionable with Neil Liddiard, even at his age, on that back end. Still on the back end, Josh Kelly returns to the Bees. He's now bounced between both the Bison and the Bees for the last couple of years, but given he wasn't going to come back to Basingstoke this year, where else was he going to go, I suppose? Locally based, lots of friends, signing in Slough, knows the club, knows the organisation, knows what to expect, albeit a different coach this time in Dom Gabai. The very final Basingstoke Bison game, the game against Leeds, and the one that we hope will not be the final game, was probably the best I've ever seen Josh Kelly play. Now, I've interviewed Josh, and I talked to Josh here and there outside of this, and I really like Josh as a human being. But his season last year didn't go well. Injuries, both bodily and a concussion, completely kiboshed his season. He struggled last year at times. He had moments of looking great, and for many years, and in interviews I've done with him, he's talked about the fact he wants to be more of an attacking-minded defenseman, that he wants to, that he thinks he can do it, and he never gets used in it. That final game against the Knights, Kelly just said solid to the lot of it. Josh Kelly was the final man of the match for the Basingstoke Bison ahead of this pause, and you know what? He was. He was the best Basingstoke Bison player that night. He threw caution to the wind. He had not a care in the world. He defended well. Yes, the Bison lost 4-2. It was Leeds. Everybody lost to Leeds last year. But he just played like a man with no masters. And it was good. I'm interested to see how Dominic Gabai uses Josh Kelly next year, because the one thing the Bees were not good at last year was the same as the Bison and the same as Hull and the same as Bristol. They weren't good team in terms of team defence. Now, it's obviously a different proposition for the Bees. They have this intangible X factor, Brython Priest in goal, a guy who has not seen the National Division but saw plenty of time last year in Dundee when things were not good either. That D wasn't built for Brython Priest. So how it works is going to be interesting. It's going to take time for guys there to get used to each other. But what Kelly offers is a guy who can play National Division minutes. He can play on D. I've not seen him play much on the power play, but he can play on the PK pretty well. And he's a guy who's not scared to get forward. With all of these additions, all of this turnover has benefited the Bees more than anybody else. There's still a couple of names from the Bison still outstanding, and at least one of them is being linked with heading to the hangar. But what Kelly offers is something I think all teams desperately need. I've said it before and I will say it again. I like my defensemen to defend. If Kelly wants to add additional offence to his game, that'd be great. This is a note, Josh. I'm not going to stop taking the mick out of your slap shot not getting above anybody's shin bones. But Kelly can do a job. Solid but unspectacular. Sometimes that's what you need. He likes to throw hits. He likes to take the body. He can drop the gloves when he needs to. Kelly's underrated. The issue for Kelly is he needs to show it, and he needs to have a year where he stays fit. Heading up front, Travis Penny, who stepped up and stepped in when things went awry for the Bison. When they needed depth and they needed depth quickly, he came and he did his best. Was Travis Penny a National Division quality player? I think there's an argument we could say that he tried his best, but it probably isn't for him right now. His joining of the Oxford City Stars and that augmented roster that Simon Anderson has put together is interesting. To see him labelled as a dynamic centre was a bit different, mostly because he's never done that for the Bison. However, to see Penny potentially used in a different role will be really interesting. Of course, a few other Bison have headed there. Tom Banner, who we've mentioned, Marcus Mitchell on the back end is there too. And potentially guys like Adrian Dushnik, who played for the Bison last year, he may well be back in Oxford too. But why I think this is good for Penny is not doing Div 2 minutes like he's done for a long time in the past. Not potentially playing out of his depth or only playing 3, 4, 5 minutes a night, thrown in as a spare part. There's a chance here for Travis Penny to get really solid minutes in a division that is going to test him but not break him, and where he can really establish himself as a regular top 9 player. The one thing Travis Penny doesn't need to be at Div 1 level is a 10th forward or an 11th forward or a 12th forward or a spare part or anything. This is a real chance. And on an Oxford side that last year performed okay, but was noticeably below the other teams in that division, bar Milton Keynes. Oxford's goal this year is to compete, and compete more than they did last year. There's been some changes to that roster, and I'm really fascinated to see how they do. I'm really pleased for Travis as well. Some guys could have easily just stepped in and not really cared in that situation, picked up whatever little expenses they had, but Travis Penny is a Basingstoke boy, and he put on that Bison jersey with pride, and he skated to the end. He did everything that was asked of him. And I'm really pleased for him that he's getting an opportunity somewhere above Div 2 for this year. Lastly, Ollie Hemmings-Maher, one of the most exciting prospects that we've seen in Basingstoke for some time. Hoped he'd score more goals last year for the Herd, but his bouncing between the Bison and the Slough Jets sees him return to Slough. This is the best move for Ollie right now. He has a long future playing in the National Division, but what he needs right now is minutes and time and lots of it. And that Slough Jets team under Lucas Smittle gives young guys with potential and speed and energy and swagger time and minutes. Ollie Hemmings-Maher could be in for a real breakout year. He could have very easily gone to a National League team, sat as a spare forward, been rotated in. But Slough is really the best choice for him. An organisation he knows, an organisation that trusts him, a coach that trusts him to go out there and use that speed and that eye for goal to cause some damage this upcoming season. I very, very much am wanting to keep an eye on this young man and see what he does. He had injury issues towards the back end of last year. It's why Bison fans wondered where he'd gone, because the club didn't bother to mention it. But appear he did over the course of the year, and he was exciting and he was fun. And between him and Roman Cathcart, in a year of many lows for the Bison, those two were a high. They were entertaining, they were exciting, they were fun. And one of the things I found watching Slough Jets highlights last year is they were fun to watch. I look forward to getting the opportunity more to see the Slough Jets with my own eyes and see just what a problem Ollie Hemmings-Maher is going to be for South 1 this upcoming year. The best to all of those four guys as they leave the Herd, as they go on to their next things. I will be making a point of trying to see all of them this upcoming year. It's July now, heading ever closer towards the last of these, although hopefully not the last of us. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for everything related to the Basingstoke Bison, and for this upcoming season, the NIHL. Because like I said, I ain't stopping for love nor money. There's things to be done, folks. If you haven't checked the rest of this website, because this video is going to be embedded on the website, click the links up, click the links on the side as well. Hockey stories, pieces from the length and breadth of hockey history. The old BOTW podcast is up there as well as Dice Hockey, our tabletop simulation ice hockey game that you can download for free. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall. Twitter is @bannersOTW. Thankfully, it seems Twitter has returned to its senses. Or, of course, YouTube. Banners on the Wall on YouTube. When the season kicks back up again, the What's Current stream will be Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. All the NIHL news and chat from across all 5 divisions of the structure. The only show to do it, and the only show to do it live every week. Lids, Kells, Travis, Ollie, enjoy your seasons, fellas. Thank you, and goodbye. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe, and so long for next time.